Hi everyone, my name is Rory Fergus Duncan Goodwillie and I'm one of the teacher trainers on the Monkey Puzzle teacher training course. And today we're going to look at guided discovery with young people in particular. And there'll be 3 videos based around different aspects of this. So we'll start off with the first part of that, which is one thing that no one tells you about guided discovery. Of course, before we do that, we should actually talk about what guided discovery actually is. Simply put, guided discovery is when the students find the answers to the questions, ideally through a series of tasks or questions written by the teacher. Why would anyone want to do that? Well, if you come to the answer using your own thought processes rather than as a result of someone explaining to you according to their thought processes, the idea is that the understanding will stick better than if we did it using the alternative method where the teacher sits and explains the different aspects of grammar. So all of that sounds quite hard, but actually the one thing that no one tells you about guided discovery is that it's really easy to do as long as we follow a set of guiding principles. And we're going to do that today by looking at an example and then looking at the principles for creating a task. And at the end, I'd like to give you a challenge where we turn it over to you and you get back to us with your efforts at guided discovery as well. Our example today is taken from Prepare 3, second edition. And it's focused on verbs not usually used in the continuous. And you can see that it follows this standard format where they have an escalating series of practice exercises. But obviously we want to change that. We want to make it more student-centered, to make it more about guided discovery. When you're doing this, the key thing to remember is that modern course books are actually your friends. So while you have these practice tasks, your book should have a text, whether it's written or audio, that's rich in examples. The technical term for this is a generative text, and you can see that here. So this is what we're dealing with for the purpose of this demonstration, but we should have a look at the principles for doing this. We want to focus the student's attention on the examples. This is done through a process of noticing, and then we want to create questions to focus on the meaning, the form, and the pronunciation. But these questions or tasks should be based on the context that's presented to the students in the actual book itself. If we connect the context to the understanding, then it should aid the understanding process as well. So let's look at our example and the examples to focus on. This process of noticing is actually accomplished just through a series of gap fill exercises. So for example, here are examples in context. Scientists, the Earth is 4.6 billion years old, and scientists, it's changing faster than ever. They, that some deserts are growing. And at the end, farmers in Greenland, the warm weather. So the job of the students is to read the text and find the different words that are missing. Once they've done that, they'll have to answer their questions that are based around the context. So here are our examples again. Now, it's important to point out, I've made them smaller here just so that we can focus on the actual questions themselves in a real worksheet that you've created for guided discovery. Of course, you'd have everything roughly the same size. So the questions are, in example 1, and you can see it here, it's marked clearly with 1, are scientists expressing an idea or a real thing? And the same thing for B, it talks about the second sentence, C is the third example, and D is the fourth example. And then we can take it all together by saying, are the words about things in the world or ideas in their heads? Now, it's important to point out this is different to the book task because the book task talks about not just, it talks about ideas, emotions, this kind of thing. But if we look for things that bring everything together under one umbrella, then this should ease the process of understanding, particularly since this is early in the book, early in the course, and we want to help our students out as much as possible. So I've just changed this to things that are real or things that are in our head. And the verbs that we use to talk about things in our head are usually not used in the continuous form. So that should draw their attention to this quite nicely. Then we have 3, and 3 focuses on the form aspect. Do the missing words have ing at the end? And then it could be why or why not. And hopefully they can connect their answer for why or why not to what's come before. It's all talking about things that happen inside our heads. And then 4, to focus on pronunciation, we have how do you say these sentences? So the sentences, the examples that we focused on previously. Check with a partner and then ask the teacher if you're correct. So this just makes sure that the students have a chance to practice the pronunciation of the verbs themselves. Not so important for focusing on verbs in the continuous form because at Prepare 3 level, which is about A2, you should already have this awareness, but it still never hurts to have a bit more practice at that. So let's review the step-by-step process. You've got to find your examples from the context and put them on your worksheet. Then you've got to explore the context and make sure they understand it. We didn't talk about this so much before, but it's important to make sure that students read the text, at the very least for gist, so they understand what it's about or who it's about, for example. Then we've got to create these specific questions with a focus on meaning and form and pronunciation. And of course, throughout this process, the temptation is to spend a long time making a very nice worksheet and everything, but you can just write this by hand. Of course, make sure that you get the students to do it themselves whenever they're actually doing the task. Don't hover over them and guide them to the answers. That's almost as bad as explaining, and that will be not a very good idea if we're doing guided discovery. They need to come to these conclusions by themselves. So that ends our first video. Thank you very much. And like I say, it's over to you now. Make sure you get back to us with all of your attempts and tries at guided discovery and let us know how that went and share your ideas in the comments. And of course, there's one thing that you must remember when you're doing guided discovery, but we're going to talk about that next time. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.